Princess Yalara stood at the tall window of the crystal hall, her slender fingers tracing the frosted glass as she watched starships glide silently toward the palace. The pale light of Lumaria Prime's twin moons painted soft patterns across the floor. Even in that quiet hour, the palace hummed with life. Servants hurried along shining corridors. Ambassadors in jewel-toned robes whispered behind fan-like screens. All of them came for the grand confluence, the great gathering of worlds held only once every decade. And tonight, Yalara felt her heart beat faster than ever before. She turned away from the window and walked lightly across the marble tiles. Golden lanterns hung from tall columns, each lantern containing a tiny glowing spirit fish. Their gentle pulses of light filled the hall with warmth. Yalara paused beside one lantern and placed her hand on the cool glass. A spirit fish drifted, near her palm, its fins fluttering like silk petals. She smiled at its beauty, but her thoughts remained far away. In the distance, the great doors opened with a soft chime. Princess Yalara's mother, Empress Salith, appeared at the entrance. She wore the violet robes of her office and a simple circlet of crystal that caught the lantern light. Though she ruled an empire of 1,000 worlds, she moved with poise and calm. Yalara watched her mother's steady steps and wondered if she could move through the coming days with the same grace. "Yalara," the Empress said, her voice a gentle melody, "you should rest. Tomorrow will be long." The princess glanced back at the spirit fish. "I cannot sleep," she admitted. "So many guests arrive tonight. I wish to see them, learn their stories." Salith smiled kindly. "Curiosity is a gift, but do not exhaust yourself. You are my daughter and the hope of our people." Yalara bowed her head in respect. "I will try, Mother." Still, her eyes betrayed her excitement. She longed for something unusual, something that felt alive. That very night, as music wove through the corridors and soft laughter drifted from the banquet halls, Yalara slipped from her chambers. She passed guards and servants without notice. She knew every secret corridor in the palace, every hidden door that led to the Queen's garden, a private sanctuary of silver-leaved trees and violet flowers that glowed beneath moonlight. The garden was empty when she arrived. Moonbeams streamed through branches, making the petals sparkle. A gentle breeze carried the scent of jasmine and lilac. Yalara walked to a carved marble bench beside a small fountain. She folded her legs beneath her and waited, her heart fluttering in her chest. Moments later, she heard footsteps on the crushed crystal path. She looked up and smiled. Dr. Elias Hart stepped into the clearing. He was the human envoy sent from Earth. Tall and lean, with dark hair falling over thoughtful eyes, he wore simple robes of deep blue. He carried a slim case of instruments, and his manner was at once respectful and curious. Yalara rose to greet him. "Dr. Hart," she said, her voice soft. "Thank you for coming." He inclined his head. "Princess Yalara, the honor is mine." "Lumaria Prime is more beautiful than my data could describe," she laughed, a clear musical sound. "Words alone cannot capture its wonder." She gestured to the fountain, where water danced in silver arcs. "Please, sit with me." He sat and opened his case. He removed a small globe that glowed with inner light. "I brought this," he said. "It records sound waves. I thought we might record your voice, the song of the fountain." Yalara leaned forward. She whispered a luminous phrase in her native tongue, and the globe trembled with soft hums. "Doctor." Hart's eyes shone as he studied the glowing lines of data. "Remarkable," he breathed. "Your language is like music." She blushed at his praise. "Your world must have many songs as well." He closed the case. "Earth has its own beauty, though I worry it does not shine so bright." He paused, then added with a gentle smile, "Yet I hope to learn and perhaps share some of its wonders with you." Yalara's chest warmed. "I wish to know everything about Earth, its oceans, its forests, its people." She held her breath. "I have never met a human before." Dr. Hart's smile grew softer. "Then let tonight be our first meeting, and many more to come." They talked until the spirit fish in the lanterns drifted away to sleep. Yalara felt joy she had never known in courtly ceremonies. She forgot the weight of her title, the expectations of her family, and simply enjoyed the company of someone who saw her as a person. Later, when the lanterns dimmed and the moon dipped low, Yalara walked Dr. Hart to the hidden exit. She stopped before a solid silver door carved with ancient glyphs. He turned to her. "Will I see you again?" he asked, hope shining in his eyes. She nodded firmly. "Yes. Tomorrow we will meet in the Hall of Maps. I will show you our star charts." His smile broadened, and he bowed. "I will be there." After he vanished into the shadows, Yalara pressed her forehead to the door and breathed in deep. Her heart raced like a wild comet. She knew that speaking with a human was frowned upon by many in the palace. Some said humans were unpredictable. Others whispered that their technology and ambition could bring danger. Even her mother had cast concerned glances at the human delegation. But Yalara felt only wonder. She believed that meeting Dr. Hart could change her life, and perhaps change the galaxy. Before slipping back to her rooms, she paused by a moonlit pond. Silver fish swam in circles beneath lily pads that glowed faintly. She knelt and let her hand drift into the water. The cool ripples brushed her fingers, and she whispered softly, "Mother, I want this human." The words felt both daring and natural. She stood and gazed up at the night sky where distant stars twinkled like scattered gems. Somewhere beyond the moons and clouds, Dr. Hart returned to his chambers, no doubt dreaming of strange gardens and gentle princesses. Yalara smiled. No matter the risk, she would learn everything she could about this human and show him the wonders of her home. Tomorrow, when the grand confluence opened, the eyes of the cosmos would turn to them. And in the vast silence between worlds, a spark of hope and curiosity had just begun to glow. Princess Yalara awoke before dawn. Thin rays of violet light slipped between the curtains of her chamber. All around her, the palace slept. Guards leaned against marble pillars, their eyes closed but alert. Servants moved in hushed steps, carrying trays of sweet fruit and iced nectar. Yet Yalara could not rest. Her thoughts drifted to Dr. Elias Hart, the human envoy. She remembered his gentle voice and the sound recording globe he had shown her. She longed to learn more. Across the hall, Empress Salith stood before a vast holomap of the Interstellar Alliance. She traced her finger along lines that marked trade routes and political borders. Lumeria Prime held a key position at the mouth of the Veil Nebula, and many worlds looked to its Empress for guidance. Yet now the Empress's calm face bore a shadow of doubt. A human at court was without precedent. Some on the council feared that Earth's young civilization would upset the delicate balance. Others believed humans might bring fresh energy and new ideas. At sunrise, the Empress summoned her closest advisors to the Council of Light. They gathered in a circular chamber where beams of morning starfire filtered through colored crystals. The air glowed with soft warmth. Yalara, hidden behind a carved screen, listened to their debate. Lord Varen, the Marshal of Lumerian Security, spoke first. "Your Majesty," Varen said, his deep voice echoing, "this human man may be a threat. We know little of Earth's true power. His presence here could embolden his people to contest our dominion." Lady Elisar, archivist of the Celestial Library, shook her head. "Dr. Hart has shown only respect and wonder. He has not asked for favors. He studied our culture with humility." Another voice, quieter but firm, joined in. "We cannot base policy on one diplomat," said Ambassador Kilo, representing the moon colony of Ilara. "But the princess's interest in him suggests something deeper. Royal affection could divide our alliances." Empress Salith pressed her lips together. "I understand your concerns. I will weigh each argument. But know this. Lumeria Prime stands for openness and cooperation. We must not close our doors in fear." The council fell silent. Yalara's heart fluttered. Her mother had defended her desire for understanding. Yet Yalara also sensed caution in Salith's voice. She knew she had to move carefully. Later that day, Yalara stole away to the royal archives. Towering shelves held holoscripts from 100 worlds. She wandered between aisles until she found a private alcove designated for special collections. There, she retrieved a small holoprojector. With a quiet click, she brought to life images of Earth, vast blue oceans, forests of emerald green, cities that sparkled like constellations in the night. She watched sailors on wooden decks, children flying kites, artists painting on old canvases. She pressed a button and listened as a soft recording of Earth's sea waves filled the alcove. Yalara closed her eyes, imagining the salty breeze, the cries of seabirds, the endless horizon. Her heart trembled at the thought of a world so full of life and contrast. Lumaria Prime was beautiful, but peaceful calm was all it had ever known. Earth's wild tides called to something deep within her. Her studies continued into the afternoon. She scrolled through digital texts of human literature, stories of heroes who fought not with swords but with hope, poems about love that bridged impossible distances, accounts of invention that sprang from pure curiosity. Each tale made her pulse quicken with excitement. She felt kinship with these strangers light years away. At dusk, she prepared for her next meeting with Dr. Hart. In a hidden corridor behind the council chamber, she lit lanterns scented with star blossom. Their pale petals glowed softly in glass orbs. The corridor led to a small balcony overlooking the palace gardens. There, she had asked him to join her again. She smoothed the front of her simple tunic and brushed her hair until it gleamed like spun silver. Anxiety fluttered in her stomach. She worried that someone might see her sneaking away. Yet every step felt necessary. She would not let caution stop her from discovering the unknown. When she reached the balcony, she found Elias already there. The evening sky had turned indigo and thousands of stars pierced the darkness. He held a small canvas and paints. "Princess," he said, bowing respectfully, "I hope I'm not late." "Never late," she assured him. "Please show me your work." He placed the canvas on an easel. Upon it was a rough landscape, a human sunrise. Soft oranges and pinks bled into one another over rolling hills. In the foreground stood two figures, one human, one Lumerian, reaching out. Yalara's breath caught. In his art he had drawn her too. She peered closely. He had mixed colors with skill, blending human pigments with a touch of Lumerian lightstone dust to give the painting a faint glow. His brushstrokes were bold and confident. She felt honored that he had chosen to include her likeness. Elias looked at her, cheeks tinged with color. "I wanted to share Earth's morning with you, and show how your world might join ours." Tears shimmered in her eyes. "It is beautiful. You have a true gift." They stood side by side, watching the painting and the real sky above. A breeze carried the scent of night-blooming jasmine. Yalara realized that every moment with him broke down her walls of fear. She had once believed humans to be unpredictable, perhaps even dangerous. Now she saw creativity, kindness, and wonder. Yet, as she gazed into Elias's warm eyes, she remembered the council's warnings. She remembered her mother's reservation. The bond she felt could ignite scandal or diplomacy, depending on how it was handled. She took a steadying breath. "I want to learn more about Earth," she said softly. "Tomorrow, will you teach me a human greeting? A poem? A song? Anything?" Elias smiled, relief flooding his face. "I would be honored." Yalara extended her hand and he took it gently. Their fingers touched, and a faint pulse of warmth spread through her. In that touch, she felt the promise of something new, something that could unite two worlds. But beyond the balcony, shadows moved in the palace corridors. Unseen eyes watched the princess's secret meetings. Whispers would spread. Alliances could shift. For now, Yalara and Elias shared a quiet moment under the stars. Yet the wheels of politics and duty turned inexorably behind them. As they parted, Yalara returned to her chamber with her heart alight. She slipped beneath the soft blankets and stared at the ceiling. The memory of Elias's painting burned bright in her mind. She closed her eyes and whispered, "I will find a way." In the stillness of her room, Princess Yalara dreamed of the future. She dreamed of Earth and Lumaria joining hands. She dreamed of a tomorrow shaped by curiosity, trust, and courage. And even as the palace around her slumbered, an idea took root in her heart, an idea that might one day change the fate of two worlds. Princess Yalara woke before dawn once more, her mind alive with anticipation and worry. Today was the Trials of Harmony, a centuries-old ceremony that tested an outsider's spirit. In Lumaria culture, these trials proved whether a visitor could share in the planet's peaceful ways. For Dr. Elias Hart, they would determine if he could become an honored guest or be asked to leave. In the grand courtyard, marble pillars soared into a sky of pale violet. Silver vines crawled up there. Bases and crystal lanterns shone with inner light. Hundreds of Lumarians gathered in colorful robes, murmuring in soft tones. Empress Salith took her place on the raised dais, her violet robes flowing like water. Beside her stood Princess Yalara, her face calm but her heart pounding. The Marshal of Harmony, an elder named Saren, stepped forward. His white hair fell over broad shoulders, and his voice carried clearly across the courtyard. "Welcome, people of Lumaria Prime and honored guests," Saren announced. "Today we witness the trials of harmony. These trials require empathy, creativity, and cooperation. Dr. Elias Hart, you will face 3 tasks. Each will test a different aspect of your spirit. Do you accept this challenge?" Dr. Hart stepped into the open space. He bowed respectfully to the Empress and Princess. He nodded. "I accept," he said, his voice steady but gentle. A cheer rose from the crowd. Yalara's heart swelled with pride. She remembered how he had helped her learn, how he had shown kindness. Now she waited to see him shine. Task 1. The Silent Melody. The first trial lay before them. A grand hollow drum, carved from pale crystal, with no visible mallet. Saren explained, "This drum will produce sound only when struck in harmony with its own frequency. You must find the correct method without words." Dr. Hart approached the drum and ran his fingers lightly over its smooth surface. He recalled a recording he had taken of the fountain's echo. He closed his eyes and listened to the silence around him. He tapped the drum gently with his knuckles. There was only a dull click. He stepped back and surveyed the tools laid out nearby. A set of metal rods, a hollow glass tube, and a tuning fork from Lumarian music study. He picked up the tuning fork and struck it against a metal rod. A clear tone rang out. He held it near the drum, and the drum trembled faintly, though it did not sound. Then he placed the glass tube between his lips and blew. Melodic notes wavered through the courtyard. The drum's surface vibrated more strongly. With a sudden clarity, he tapped the drum with the tube. It sang. A pure, resonant note filled the air. Gasps rose from the spectators. The crystal drum responded to the exact frequency he had created. Saren nodded, impressed. "Task 1 complete," he declared. Task 2. The Living Bridge. Next came the second trial. Before them lay a small pond of glowing water, its surface smooth as glass. Across it were scattered floating stepping stones of crystal, shifting gently. The goal was to cross safely without disturbing the water's calm. Many Lumarians had tried in the past, only to slip or startle the water and fail. Dr. Hart studied the stones. They moved slowly but unpredictably. He took a deep breath and recalled walking on river stones in Earth's forests. He knew that balance and timing were key. He removed his shoes and waded into the shallow edge of the pond. The water felt cool against his skin. He touched one stone lightly with his foot, testing its motion. Then he shifted weight to one side, found his balance, and stepped forward. Each movement was slow and precise. He placed his foot on the next stone only when it paused, then shifted again. Halfway across, a stone rocked unexpectedly. For a moment he teetered, arms outstretched. But he remembered how birds balanced on narrow branches. He shifted his center, bent his knees, and steadied himself. The pond's surface remained calm, not a ripple in sight. With one final careful step, he reached the far shore. The crowd erupted in soft applause. Even Empress Saleth smiled with relief. Dr. Hart bowed, water dripping from his robes but his expression triumphant. Task 3. The Garden of Reflection. The final trial was the most personal. Saren led Elias and Yalara to a secluded glade within the palace gardens. Moonflowers glowed on silver stalks. A circular pool stood in the center, its water mirror still. Above it hovered 6 floating crystals, each reflecting a different emotion: joy, sorrow, hope, fear, love, and compassion. Saren's voice was gentle. To complete the trials of harmony, you must choose one crystal and speak your truth to the pool. Let your words reflect the emotion it holds. Your honesty will prove your heart. Dr. Hart felt his pulse quicken. He looked at the crystals in turn. Joy shone like sunlight, sorrow like a blue tear. Hope glimmered like distant stars, fear like a shadow. Love pulsed warmly. Compassion glowed softly. He remembered Yalara's kindness, her courage. He thought of Earth's people, how they held joy and sorrow side by side. He stepped forward and placed his hand on the crystal of compassion. Its light spread through his arm in warmth. He knelt by the pool and spoke. I have seen your world and seen its peace. I have felt its beauty in lantern light and silver gardens. I know what it means to be a guest here, and I carry gratitude in my heart. On my own world, we wander and explore, but we often fail to listen. Here, I have learned that true understanding comes from humility and care. I promise to honor this lesson. I promise to share it with my people and to bring your lessons of harmony back to Earth. As his words echoed, the pool's surface shimmered. The reflection of the crystal glowed brighter, then merged with the water. Ripples of gentle light spread across the pool and into the glade. The moonflowers trembled in a silent breeze. Yalara watched, tears in her eyes. Never had she heard such honest words. Dr. Hart's promise felt like a bridge between their worlds. She took his hand and squeezed it gently. Saren rose and smiled. Dr. Elias Hart, you have passed the trials of harmony. Your empathy, creativity, and honesty honor the spirit of Lumaria Prime. He turned to the Empress. Your Majesty, Earth would be lucky to count him as an ally. Empress Saleth stepped forward. Her gaze rested on Dr. Hart, then on her daughter. Yalara held her breath. The court was silent, waiting for the Empress's words. Finally, Saleth inclined her head. By these trials and by the spirit they reveal, I welcome Dr. Elias Hart into the circle of Lumarian friends. A murmur of approval rose from the assembly. Guards lowered their weapons. Nobles bowed. Even the critics among the council looked impressed. Dr. Hart stood, water droplets glowing on his robes like tiny stars. He bowed deeply to the Empress and to Yalara. Then he straightened, a humble smile on his face. Thank you, Your Majesty. Thank you, Princess. Yalara stepped forward and embraced him. The crowd gasped but then cheered in delight. In that moment, the walls of caution and fear fell away. 2 worlds had taken their first steps toward friendship. As lanterns lit the night sky and spirit fish glowed in their glass orbs, Yalara knew that this day would be remembered for generations. In a quiet corner of her heart, she felt the greatest trial of all had succeeded. The trial of trust between her world and the human beside her. Dawn broke over Lumaria Prime with a sky of rose and gold. In the great plaza of stars, thousands gathered to celebrate Dr. Elias Hart's success in the trials of harmony. Princess Yalara stood beside her mother, Empress Saleth, at the head of the crowd. Soft music from crystal lyres rose on the warm breeze. Silver banners fluttered from marble columns. Elias stood before them in simple robes, water still glinting on his sleeves like tiny stars. He bowed low to the Empress and then to Yalara. The crowd cheered in gentle waves. For a moment, the long history of caution and fear seemed to vanish. Two worlds had found a spark of friendship. Empress Salith raised her hands for silence. "Today," she said, her voice carrying clearly, "we welcome Dr. Elias Hart as an official guest of the Lumerian court. May his journey among us bring wisdom to his people and peace to ours." She smiled at the human envoy. "You have shown yourself worthy of our trust." Overhead lanterns shaped like glowing lotus flowers drifted into the sky. Each carried a scroll tied with silver ribbon. Yalara held one lantern and read its message. "May our worlds walk together in hope." She carefully lit its wick. Beside her, Elias held his own lantern. He had written in his rough human script, "May our cultures learn and grow as one." When the lanterns rose, they formed a river of light against the morning sky. The crowd watched in hushed wonder. Yalara felt Elias's hand slip into hers. A thrill of joy passed between them. In that silent moment, neither spoke. Words were not needed. That afternoon, a formal hearing convened in the council hall. Rival delegates had demanded it. They argued that one human at court could unbalance alliances and expose Lumaria to unknown dangers. The hall's dome was painted, with scenes of past confluences where alien rulers had met in peace. Now the same walls would witness a tense debate. Lord Varen, Marshal of Security, stood first. He spoke sternly. "Esteemed delegates, I respect Dr. Hart's achievements, yet we cannot ignore the risks. Earth's power grows. They may seek to claim our star lanes or our resources. We must proceed with caution." Lady Elisar, archivist of the Celestial Library, rose next. Her voice was calm. "The trials of harmony are our oldest test of character. Dr. Hart passed with honor. He showed empathy, creativity, and humility. Can we deny his true spirit, based on distant fears?" Ambassador Kilo of Alara spoke in a measured tone. "Princess Yalara's friendship with a human envoy is unprecedented. It shapes the court's view. If a royal bond forms, our alliances may fracture. Minor houses may choose sides." A murmur ran through the assembly. Yalara sat at the front beside her mother, her back straight. She knew the time had come to speak for what she believed. Empress Salith looked at her daughter and nodded. Then she addressed the council. "Trust must begin somewhere," Salith said. "Dr. Hart's deeds speak louder than rumors." She turned to Yalara. "My daughter has learned much from him. Now she may tell you why humanity matters." Yalara rose, her heart steady. The hall grew silent, all eyes fixed on her. She drew in a deep breath and began. "Honored delegates and ambassadors," she said, "I stand before you as a Lumerian princess. I grew up hearing that humans were unpredictable. I heard that they could bring war and greed, but I have seen their best side. I saw Dr. Hart face our trials with respect. He listened to our songs. He learned our ways. He used creativity, not force, to earn trust." She paused, glancing at Elias, who nodded gently. She continued, "On his world, humans build towers that touch clouds and machines that speak like living minds. Yet they also write poems and paint on canvases. They sing about stars and dance under moonlight. They are as capable of wonder as they are of invention." Yalara felt her voice grow stronger. "If we fear change, we close our doors and lose our chance to grow. If we reject humanity because of what they might do, we deny the chance to learn from what they have already done. Dr. Hart shows us that we can share knowledge and art. He shows that our worlds can help each other face challenges, climate storms, resource shortages, the very loneliness of space." She held the council's gaze. "I ask you, will you let fear decide our future? Or will you choose curiosity, trust, and hope? I choose hope. I choose to stand with a human who honors my world. I choose to build bridges, not walls." A hush followed her words. Then a few delegates began to clap. Slowly, applause spread across the hall until the chamber rang with approval. Even some of the skeptics rose to their feet. Empress Salith rose as well, pride softening her features. "My daughter spoke well," she said. Let this confluence be remembered not for fear, but for the friendships we forge. That evening, Yalara and Elias walked through the palace gardens. Lanterns glowed among silver-leaved trees. Night-blooming flowers opened, releasing sweet scents. They paused by the moonlit pond where they had met weeks before. Elias took Yalara's hand. "Your speech was wonderful," he said quietly. "You spoke from the heart." Yalara smiled. "I spoke for both our worlds. Thank you for trusting me." He brushed a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "I trust you." He hesitated, then added, "And I trust your people, because I have seen their kindness." Yalara's heart fluttered. "I believe in us," she said, "and in what we can build together." They stood in silence under the moonlit sky. For a moment, the palace faded away. Only two souls remained, charting a new path across the stars. Back in the council hall, minor houses sent messengers to the palace gates. They arrived that night with gifts for the princess and the human envoy. Rare starflowers that bloomed only when sung to, silver filigree boxes containing nebula pearls, and scrolls of ancient wisdom. Each gift carried a message of welcome and support. Empress Salith read each note by lamplight. She smiled as she saw how many worlds chose friendship over fear. "Your words have touched them, Yalara," she told her daughter. "You have done well." Yalara felt both joy and relief. She had risked much by standing up in the council. Now she knew her mother's trust was not misplaced. As she looked at Elias, she realized their bond had grown into something precious, something that could change history. Under the glow of crystal lanterns, they walked back to the palace. The corridors felt different now, warmer, more alive. Everywhere they passed, servants, guards, and ministers bowed with genuine smiles. The fear that once shadowed the court seemed to lift on the night breeze. In her chamber, Yalara placed the nebula pearl on her desk. It glowed softly like a promise. She finished her candle-lit writing. "Tomorrow we begin the Institute of Shared Wonder. May it shine across both our worlds." She blew out the candle and slipped beneath her blankets. As she drifted to sleep, she dreamed of a new dawn where Earth and Lumeria stood together, united by trust, curiosity, and the courage of a princess who dared to choose hope. Morning light spilled over Lumeria Prime in soft waves of golden rose. Princess Yalara awoke with a smile. Today, she and Dr. Elias Hart would open the Institute of Shared Wonder, a school of art, science, and friendship between Earth and Lumeria. It was the first step toward a lasting bond. In the grand confluence hall, rows of chairs faced a wide dais. Banners of Earth's blue and green stood beside Lumaria's violet and silver. Ambassadors, scholars, and citizens filled the hall, their faces bright with hope. At the center of the dais, Yalara's mother, Empress Salith, stood tall. Next to her were Yalara and Elias, both dressed in simple robes that combined Lumerian silk and earth linen. When the last hush fell, Empress Salith spoke. "Today, we open a door between our worlds. The Institute of Shared Wonder will teach our peoples to learn from each other. May it bring wisdom, peace, and creativity to all." She raised her hands and crystal lanterns overhead brightened, casting rainbow prisms on the walls. Yalara stepped forward. Her heart pounded, but her voice was steady. "Friends from Earth and Lumeria Prime," she said, "we begin a new journey. Here we will share songs, stories, and science. We will paint together, study the stars together, and build new ideas together. In unity, we become stronger." She smiled at Elias, who nodded in encouragement. Elias spoke next. "On Earth, we have always looked up at the sky with wonder, but we believed we were alone. Now I see the beauty and wisdom of another world. I offer Earth's friendship to Lumeria Prime. Let us learn kindness and courage together." His simple words drew warm applause. Following the speeches, the first class began. Yalara and Elias walked among small groups of students, Lumerians with silver hair and gentle eyes, and humans in varied skin tones and bright clothing. At one table, a Lumerian child sketched human cityscapes while an Earth teenager painted. the crystal gardens of Lumaria. At another, engineers from both worlds worked together on a small hover propeller, sharing tools and laughter. Yalara stopped by a group of young Lumarian musicians teaching humans to play the lyre. Elias joined a circle of artists showing how Earth's pigments could blend with Lumaria's glowstone dust. He dipped his brush in violet dust and red earth, paint, then applied it lightly to a canvas. The colors swirled into a gentle sunset. He beamed as the students gasped in delight. As the morning sun climbed, the festivities moved outside. A long table held foods from Earth, spiced breads, fruit salads, and Lumaria, nectar-soaked pastries, crystallized honey. Guests tasted, laughed, and shared stories. A human diplomat called out, "Your nectar pastries taste like star-dropped candy." A Lumarian chef replied with a bow, "And your spiced bread sings on the tongue like a Voyager hymn." In the shade of silver-leaved trees, Yalara and Elias walked together. She looked around at the mingling crowds. "I never imagined so many smiles from both worlds," she said softly. He smiled back. "It's only the beginning. Imagine what we can build next." He pointed to the sky, where Earth ships and Lumarian vessels flew side by side, their trails of light weaving a pattern like dancers in the air. Yalara's face glowed. "I want to see our cultures grow closer. I want children on both worlds to know each other as friends, not strangers." Elias took her hand. "And I want Earth to be a better place for what we learn here, peace, respect, and wonder." They stopped by a small stage where a Lumarian poet and an Earth storyteller prepared to share tales. Yalara watched as the poet recited a verse about twin moons and drifting petals. The storyteller followed with a tale of a lonely lighthouse, keeper on a blue planet. Their words blended like a song that crossed the stars. As afternoon light turned to lavender dusk, the Empress called everyone to gather around a reflecting pool. Floating lanterns shaped like lotus blossoms glowed on the water. Each guest wrote a hope for the future on a scroll and tied it to a lantern. Yalara dipped a brush in water and wrote her own. "May our worlds always seek understanding." Elias wrote beside her in careful letters, "May friendship guide us through the void." Together they lit their lanterns and set them afloat. The pool filled with gentle lights that drifted until they disappeared in a soft glow. A hush fell as everyone watched the lanterns vanish. Empress Salith broke the silence. "Let these lights be a promise," she said. "A promise that we will carry each other's hopes in our hearts." That night, the palace's crystal hall opened its doors for a grand concert. Lumarian lyres and human violins played a joint symphony. Dancers in flowing robes moved like ribbons of light. Yalara and Elias sat side by side, listening to the music born from two worlds. In their shared joy, the last traces of fear seemed to melt away. After the concert, Yalara and Elias returned to the moonlit pond where they first met. The night air was cool, and the moonflowers glowed softly. They sat on the same carved marble bench. Yalara sighed happily. "We did it," she whispered. "We built something real." Elias placed an arm around her shoulders. "Yes, together." He paused, then asked, "What dreams will guide us next?" She leaned her head against him. "I dream of a fleet of joint ships, mapping new stars. I dream of artists and scientists training side by side, creating wonders we cannot yet imagine. And I dream of Earth and Lumaria standing together against any darkness." He kissed her forehead. "Then let us keep dreaming and working. Our future is bright because we choose it." Yalara closed her eyes and let the gentle sound of water and night wind fill her ears. She felt hope bloom like a starflower in her chest. The galaxy was vast, and many challenges lay ahead. But she knew that with trust, curiosity, and courage, they could face anything. In the palace above, the crystal hall's lanterns dimmed, signaling the end of celebrations. On the balcony, Empress Salith watched the two hold each other's hands under the moon. She allowed herself a small, proud smile. Her daughter had chosen love and peace over fear, and the galaxy would remember that choice for ages to come. Under the twin moons of Lumaria Prime, two worlds began a new chapter. Their story would ripple outward, to distant stars and lonely planets. Wherever humans and Lumerians looked up at the sky, they would remember the princess who begged for a human, and the human who honored her world. Together they had lit a spark of hope that would burn brightly across the void,